25 years is a long time. Long enough for seasons to pass, for faces to age, and for memories to blur at the edges. Yet no matter how much time went by, the ache of our separation never truly faded. Life, in all its chaos and unpredictability, had pushed us apart when we least expected it, and for reasons that now seemed almost too small to justify such a long silence. At first, the distance felt temporary, a few missed calls, a few unsent letters. Pride and stubbornness grew like invisible walls between us. Every new year brought a fresh opportunity to reach out, but it also brought fresh fear. What if they no longer wanted to hear from me? What if too much damage had been done? And so, another year would pass, and another, until the silence became a habit, and then a way of life. In that time, we lived entire lifetimes without each other. Birthdays came and went. Important milestones, graduations, weddings, even funerals, happened without a word exchanged. Sometimes, late at night, I would wonder how you were, what your life looked like, whether you thought of me too. But I convinced myself that it was better to leave old wounds alone, better not to risk reopening the pain. Family gatherings were the hardest. Sitting around the table, surrounded by laughter and familiar faces, there was always an empty chair in my heart where you should have been. People rarely spoke your name, as if mentioning you would make the wound too fresh again. And even though life carried on, jobs, travels, new friendships, there was always a hollow space that no one else could fill. Looking back now, I realize how much fear had ruled those years. Fear of rejection, fear of more hurt, fear that the person I remembered might not even exist anymore. And yet, despite the silence, despite the years that stretched like an endless road between us, a small part of me never gave up hope. Hope that one day, somehow, we might find our way back to each other. Hope that even after all the lost time, it wouldn't be too late. It happened on an ordinary afternoon, the kind you don't expect to change anything. I was scrolling mindlessly through social media when a familiar face appeared, a mutual friend from long ago. In the photo, they stood laughing at a reunion, surrounded by people I hadn't seen in decades. But there, almost hidden in the background, was you. For a moment, I just stared, unsure if my eyes were playing tricks on me. You looked older, of course, but still unmistakably you. Memories came rushing back with a force that left me breathless. It was as if a door that had been locked for years suddenly creaked open, letting in all the warmth and all the ache. I hesitated for a long time before doing anything. My fingers hovered over the screen, wondering if reaching out would stir up old wounds best left untouched. Doubts clouded my mind. What if they don't want to hear from me? What if they've moved on completely? But somewhere beneath the fear, a different voice spoke, a softer, braver one. What if they've been waiting too? Gathering my courage, I sent a simple message to our mutual friend. Is that really them? It wasn't much, but it was enough to set something in motion. Within hours, the reply came, yes, and they asked about you. I read that message over and over, hardly believing it. After all these years, you had thought of me too. The idea was almost too tender to grasp. My hands shook as I typed the next message, unsure of what to say after a quarter-century of silence. In the end, I settled for honesty. I miss them. I wish things had been different. To my amazement, you responded the very next day. It was short, only a few lines, but filled with more emotion than 1,000 pages could hold. You said you had missed me too, that not a year had passed without wondering where I was, what I was doing, whether it was too late. In that moment, hope was no longer a fragile flicker. It was a flame, a tiny but undeniable spark that illuminated a path forward. We didn't know how hard the journey would be or how many wounds we'd have to face. But for the first time in 25 years, the silence had been broken, and with it the possibility of healing had begun. Reconnecting was easy at first. Safe messages, light conversations, memories of better times. It felt good to laugh again, to remember who we once were. But as the excitement wore off, we both knew that if we truly wanted to rebuild what was lost, we couldn't avoid the harder conversations. The past was still there, a quiet shadow between us, waiting to be faced. It started with a simple question: what really happened back then? Neither of us had the full story. Over time, anger and assumptions had clouded the truth. There had been misunderstandings, words misheard, intentions misjudged, actions seen through the painful lens of pride, and in the silence that followed, we had each built our own version of the story, a version where the other person was wrong. Talking about it wasn't easy. There were moments when the old wounds felt as raw as they had decades ago. There were long pauses where neither of us knew what to say. At times, the temptation to retreat, to hang up, to stop writing, was overwhelming. But something stronger kept pulling us forward. The realization that healing could only happen if we were brave enough to walk through the pain together. We took turns sharing our memories, no interruptions, no defenses, just honesty. I learned about the silent hurts you carried, the misunderstandings you never got to explain. You heard about the loneliness I endured, the walls I built to protect myself. For the first time, we truly saw each other's wounds, not as weapons, but as evidence of how deeply we had once cared. Forgiveness didn't happen in a single conversation. It came slowly, like the first thaw after a long winter. It came in quiet moments when we simply chose to keep talking, to stay even when it hurt. It came in whispered apologies and tears we didn't hide. Most importantly, it came in the decision to let go. Not because the past didn't matter, but because our future mattered more. By the end of that season, something beautiful had started to grow where resentment once lived. Not a perfect relationship, not a return to the way things were, but something stronger. A bond rebuilt on truth, vulnerability, and grace. We weren't the same people we had been 25 years ago, but maybe that was exactly what made forgiveness possible. The day of our reunion felt surreal, like waking up inside a long-forgotten dream. We had spent weeks talking, healing, rebuilding the fragile bridge between us. But seeing each other in person after 25 years, that was something no phone call or message could prepare us for. I arrived early at the small cafe we had chosen, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the chatter around me. Every sound seemed muted, every face a blur, except the door. I kept my eyes on it, holding my breath with every new person who walked in. Part of me was still terrified. What if it felt awkward? What if the years had changed us too much? And then you stepped through the door. For a moment, the world stopped moving. You looked older, yes. Lines of experience traced your face, silver strands touched your hair, but it was undeniably you. And in your eyes I saw the same flicker of recognition, the same rush of emotion that overwhelmed me. We stood frozen for a heartbeat, unsure whether to laugh or cry. In the end, we did both. The hug we shared was fierce and trembling, filled with the weight of everything we had lost, and the hope of everything we could still regain. It was not just a hug of greeting. It was a hug of forgiveness, of longing, of a homecoming long overdue. Words stumbled out between tears and laughter. We talked for hours, sometimes finishing each other's sentences, sometimes sitting in comfortable silence. We shared stories of the years we had missed, of triumphs and heartaches, of ordinary days and extraordinary moments. Every story was a thread weaving our lives back together. The walls we had built so long ago crumbled with every smile, every memory rediscovered. It didn't matter that we weren't the same people we had been. What mattered was that, against all odds, we had found our way back to each other. As the sun began to set, casting golden light through the cafe windows, I realized something. This wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of something new. A second chance to write a better story. Together. Reuniting wasn't the end of our story. It was only the beginning. After that first emotional meeting, we knew we couldn't undo the lost years. We couldn't go back and attend each other's weddings, celebrate birthdays, or hold hands through heartbreaks. But what we could do, what we chose to do, was build something new from the pieces we had left. We started slowly, carefully, like two people learning to dance again after a long absence. Weekly calls became routine, then casual visits. We learned about each other's favorite things all over again. New hobbies, new dreams, even new fears. In some ways it felt like meeting for the first time. In others it felt like coming home. There were still moments of awkwardness, times when the weight of the past crept back in. Old habits of silence or hesitation would sometimes rise up, reminding us of the years we had lost. But we had learned something precious during our journey back: patience. Whenever uncertainty appeared, we chose to be patient, with ourselves and with each other. We also learned to celebrate small victories: a shared meal, a handwritten letter on a birthday, a spontaneous road trip to a town we had once dreamed of visiting together. These moments, however ordinary they seemed, became sacred to us. They were our way of reclaim. More than anything, we promised never to let silence win again. We promised to speak even when it was hard, to reach out even when pride whispered to stay away. We understood now how precious and how fragile connection could be. In the end, our story was not defined by the years we lost, but by the courage it took to come back together. As we sat together one evening, watching the stars blink into life above us, you smiled and said, "We found our way back." And for the first time in 25 years, I smiled back without a trace of sadness, only gratitude for the road that had led us here. Together. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear the next chapter, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share more heartfelt stories just like this one, stories about family, forgiveness, and second chances. By subscribing, you'll never miss an update and will be the first to hear all our newest videos. Your support helps us keep bringing meaningful stories to life. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you can join us on every new journey we share. Thank you for being part of our story.